Maji ni uhai, maji ni haki yako. Oh, oh.
Water, the fuel of life. We rely on water for our health and well-being. It keeps our homes and livelihoods running, and is importantly the life source of our cultural practices and natural environment. But despite its central role in our lives, water availability is under increasing threat. From rapidly growing populations, the rising demands of agriculture, industrialization, and climate change. As urbanization accelerates in Kenya, pressure has been mounting on most county governments to provide basic services. These long-standing challenges have been further compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic that has highlighted the need for access to water now more than ever for the health management of our families. According to WASREB, Kenya's Water Services Regulatory Board, mandated to protect the interests and rights of consumers in the provision of water and sanitation services. It is not just about the access to water, it is about the access to clean and safe water.
How does WASEB do that? WASEB is able to achieve its mandate, one, by licensing of the water sanitation providers. It decides who goes into that market and under what condition. Then number two, WASREB also sets standards in terms of water service provision. And number three, WASREB also does monitoring and enforcement.
While close to 60% of Kenyans have access to water, the other 40% continue to be underserved for a number of reasons. Key among them is human encroachment on water catchment zones. Forests and forested mountains are considered as water towers because they attract rainfall. Water towers continue to face intense pressures, with dwindling forest cover brought about by deforestation, charcoal burning, and clearance of trees for settlement. These adverse actions have undermined critical ecosystems that support life, and therefore, water catchment zones need to be protected.
Any funding for development of water sources here going forward must have a component of catchment protection, so that you are not just putting the facility, but you're also making sure where that water is coming from is well protected, and then you are guaranteed of safe water.
Section 43D under the Bill of Rights gives every Kenyan the right to access clean and safe water in adequate quantities. So, what is safe drinking water? Safe drinking water should be visually appealing. It should be clear and colorless, with no unpalatable taste or odor, and should not contain suspended matter, harmful chemical substances, or pathogenic microorganisms. In its mission to protect public health, WASREB issues comprehensive guidelines to all water service providers countrywide to ensure the water that reaches the consumer is both clean and safe. Under their operating licenses, the water service providers, also known as WSPs, are required to comply with WASREP's guidelines on water treatment. Whether at the large water treatment plants or at the small water kiosks, the water must be protected within the catchment, treated to remove impurities, and routinely sampled and analyzed.
So the systems that we use are 7, that is abstraction, coagulation, flocculation, sedimentation, filtration, chlorination, and that retention period in the clear water tank. And that makes sure that we ensure our customers that the water they take should be taken straight from the tap because it's treated to World Health Organization standards.
Ni safi kabisa, hata unachota na kukunywa. Kuosha nyumba, kukunywa, kufua nguo, kupika chakula, inatumika kwa kila kitu.
Maji ni maji safi, tunakunywa hata bila kuchemsha, ni maji iko sawa.
Maji iko mzuri kabisa. Hakuna shida. Ile shida tulikuwa nayo iliisha. Sasa tuko na furaha.
Quality is ensured right from the raw water. We have an ISO certified laboratory that takes samples from the raw water, where we take the water from up to the consumer points. In particular for consumer points, we have 20 sampling points. At the same time, of course, during production of the water, there is a quality control in every stage of production of the water. So there is a smaller lab where we do our water treatment as well.
While the Kenyan Constitution provides every citizen the right to access clean and safe water, that right also comes with responsibilities. As a consumer, you must report leakages, keep water equipment in good order, and report suspicious activity around water infrastructure.
Each party has a responsibility. For the customer, they have a right to get access to free and safe drinking water, and equally they are also required to ensure that at least they pay for the services we deliver to ensure that we are able to remain sustainable.
The right to sanitation provides that every Kenyan should have physical and affordable access to sanitation that is safe, hygienic, socially and culturally acceptable, and safeguards dignity. But what is sanitation? Appropriate or good sanitation is defined as having access to facilities for the safe disposal of human waste, as well as having the ability to maintain hygienic conditions through services such as garbage collection, wastewater treatment, and disposal.
Sanitation comes in 2 components. That is the seaward sanitation, that's the network. And then there's the on-site sanitation, we call the non-seaward sanitation. In terms of the grid sanitation, the sewer sanitation, the coverage in this country is very low. It's only about 17%. It's quite low.
With the low sanitation coverage in the country, most households in the urban and rural expanses can only dispose of wastewater through the use of pit latrines or toilets connected to septic tanks. Once the pit latrines and septic tanks get full, they are then emptied by vacuum tankers, commonly called exhausters. Once emptied, these exhausters are supposed to empty the waste to a designated waste disposal site or a sewer treatment facility for treatment and safe release to the surrounding environment. The waste treatment procedure has several phases that ensure all harmful bacteria, pollutants, and contaminants are eliminated or neutralized.
The wastewater flows to the last pre-treatment unit, which is the tertiary pond. So the tertiary pond, the depth is 1.2 meters, retention time is 5 days, and the process taking place is biological, it is aerobic. After that, we sample the wastewater, the final effluent, and we do the analysis. So after that stage, it should now be stable to be disposed to the environment. When it has reached the required standards for safe disposal.
So WASREB role in this is setting standards for sanitation provision. And when I talk about sanitation provision, WASREB is looking at if the question of the sewer sanitation, it is the collection from the homes, all the way the transportation of the treatment plant, and then the cleaning, and then eventually the disposal to the environment.
Achieving universal access to sanitation by 2030 will be challenging given the current levels of investment and projected population growth in Kenya. To achieve the increase of national sanitation coverage from the current 17% to about 50%, concerted efforts are therefore encouraged from all sector players for the realization of funding and policy implementation.
We need more money going towards sanitation. 2, our policies have also failed us. If you look at the national water policy, the original format, they talked very little about sanitation, but they just talked of water. So we need to have the right policies in place, and the policy that states that every water project must have a component of sanitation. And that's why you find the disparity, that while in water we are at 60, then sanitation is very low. And I'm happy to say that the current water policy is trying to address that.
About a third of Kenyans live below the poverty line. The proportion of the underserved population increases substantially with reducing household incomes and increasing poverty levels. Through this continuous effort towards water services for all, WASREB's intervention focuses on service to the poor and marginalized communities.
Area of focus has been, we are looking in terms of affordability or access by those disadvantaged in society. And what we normally use at times is we have prepaid water kiosk, where people can access water with, you may not afford to have a connection, but you can afford a shilling because you go and it's automated dispensers. A shilling, you fill your 20-liter jerrycan.
So what WASREB has done, it has introduced an extra indicator called a PROPUA, which we have even embedded in the license. And what that means is that every utility is required by WASREB to have a PROPUA unit. You know, a team that comes to work every morning and their concern is just to look at the rights and the interests of consumers living in the low-income settlement. By doing that, we have made utilities, now be able to extend their services into those areas.
The fourth schedule of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 creates 2 levels of government at national and county levels. Part 2, 11B, stipulates that provision of water and sanitation services has been devolved to the county level. WASREB initiated the County Engagement Strategy to create a synergy between the 2 levels of government in driving the water services agenda.
We have seen funding in small projects that has seen coverage improves. This is an area which have been largely marginalized over the years, but currently through support Gargan or Nyeri. That has been improved.
Anytime we have called upon the national government, particularly through the Water Sector Trust Fund, we have been supported. And therefore we have seen the collaboration along that line. And also, as I said earlier, the county is committed to supporting the WSPs within this county. And that's why you find that all of the five operational water service providers in the county have been supported financially by the county government, particularly to improve on their infrastructure and also to help them on reduction of the non-revenue water.
We should have been able to cover a lot, and that has been my passion with it, and my discussion with the sector players in that we need to collaborate. Drill a bore, someone else rises, someone else does a pipeline. In any case, we are serving the same residents. That's a critical thing, and I think the regulator has been very strong in that intergovernmental relation between the national government and the county government.
Sustainable water solutions in Kenya calls for innovative thinking and strong public-private partnerships to drive the transformation towards efficient and economically viable service delivery within the context of water services for all.
We need to create that enabling environment to bring in private investors. If there are any hurdles, we need to remove them. This population, Kenyan population is growing. We are now about 50 million. By 2050, we'll be about probably 65 million. These people need water and sanitation services. Are we prepared for that? If we are not, then we should know what to expect. When you have a large concentration of people in an area with no sufficient water, no sanitation services, then you are inviting another pandemic. Water is at the heart of all this.
But despite the tough operating environment, WASREB has been unrelenting in the face of adverse challenges.
When WASREB came in regulation, the sector turnover was only 5 billion. Now the sector turnover is 22, it's over 20 billion. Because of a regulator being there and monitoring what's happening within the WSPs, we've seen better management of finances. We've seen better improvement within our WSPs. WASREB has been able to guide the sector, like when we had this COVID-19. And today, I would want to say that WASREB is looked upon as a place where, even county governments come to seek advice. The country has accepted the need for a strong regulator. Thank you.
As WASREB, today we celebrate the lives transformed so far through our interventions and realize that there is more to be done, even as we continue with our mandate in all the 47 counties across the country. In pursuit of our vision of becoming a proactive and dynamic water services regulator, we are scaling impact, inspiring new partnerships and economic solutions to help end the country's water crisis.
maji ni haki